Hi, this is Gary Bowles, based in San Francisco. I'm really excited about bringing big ideas to people inside organizations, and I'm really honored to show you these videos by John Hagel and John Seely Brown. Enjoy.
So the power of pull.
Yes.
As you know, this covers an incredible number of topics.
Yes.
Do you think after all this time we spent on this book that we can actually map it down to a crisp comment on what the book really is about?
Well, maybe a few crisp comments, but
Go for it.
At one level, I think the book really is ultimately about how do you turn this environment of increasing stress into an environment and feeling of stimulus. Rather than feeling burnt out, how do we get excited and re-engaged around the changes that are going on around us? And at one level, I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is speak to the stress everybody's experiencing, try to help understand why that stress has occurred, and on the other side, provide some pragmatic approaches to turning that around and really creating opportunities out of the stress.
So from that point of view, there are various levels of people, various entities that are feeling stress. And one is the individual, another is your organization, another might be the world at large. So how do you want to kind of tease those apart?
No, I think that's part of what we tried to do in this book, is actually speak at all those levels. I think one of the core messages in the book is it all starts with the individual. If we as individuals don't figure out how to engage and handle this, everything else is kind of a moot question. So we frame it as starting with the individual. What should we be doing individually to adopt a different set of practices and approaches? And then over time, how does that ripple into institutions, and how does that ultimately transform broader markets, industries, arenas?
So part of the catch is going to have to be how do organizations begin to learn how to take advantage of folks coming into the firm that have kind of caught this message and figured out that in fact there are different ways for the individual to behave.
Yeah, and I think part of the stress we're experiencing is that we are in institutions that are still pursuing an old way of doing business, of approaching the world, and that's creating huge tension. And so part of the challenge for us as individuals is, number one, how do we cope with that? And number two, ideally, how do we help transform the institutions we're part of?
So I think a key part of this is to recognize the subtitle. How small moves smartly made can set big things in motion, because we can talk about a huge transformation. Most of us that walk into a company today think, oh sure, I can actually turn this entire company around? Well, no way. Or the world around? Well, no way. And I don't want to buy all the Kool-Aid in Silicon Valley either, just some of it. So I think this notion of constantly looking for pathways that actually small moves, smartly made, can have big impact is a key kind of persona through this whole book, or the key perspective that we want to unfold here. So on one hand, this book is very much reaching out to the universe, so to speak, in a whole new way of being. But on the other hand, actually showing very pragmatic ways where we can move from here to there at each of these different levels. And then the irony is the whole is more than the sum of the parts.
Right. It accumulates. It builds on the small moves build on each other, and each one generating bigger and bigger impacts.
Right. And in fact, I'd say not only are they building each other, but they also cycle back.
Yes.
So we're actually creating a network effect across 3 levels.
Right.
So you create networks affecting here, here, and here, and then a network effect that actually cycles this all back in. And so that's where you get this amplification factor in terms of these small moves smartly made, setting much bigger things in motion than you would ever have believed.
Right, and at one level we really are talking about reframing the game. There is a fundamental transformation. There's a fundamentally new game, if you will, that is emerging out of all this. And there are a lot of books that do a great job of painting a very beautiful picture of how major the transformation is. But then leave the reader to the reader's imagination how they might actually get there. And I think what we're trying to do is provide a bit of a pragmatic pathway that basically will help individuals, institutions really make that transition, recognize where they're starting from today and be realistic about the starting point, and help them move forward.
Right.